Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing you to the news untold stories. I am Bala. Let's begin. The Cameroons have faced a renewed concern over rising insecurity and mounting public frustration as a series of troubling incidents from Bamenda to Yaoundé continues to spark outrage across the country. In Bamenda, 4 people abducted by armed men from a snack bar in the Maifo neighborhood remain missing nearly 2 days after the attack. The victims, including 2 sales girls working at the establishment, were reportedly taken at gunpoint by unidentified attackers on Sunday evening. The incident is the latest in a wave of kidnappings and violent attacks linked to the ongoing Amazonian war in Cameroon, southern Cameroon, where residents continue to grapple with fear and instability. Meanwhile, in Yaoundé, tensions have been rising over a separate incident that have reignited debate over the state of public institution and the protection of vulnerable citizens. Public anger intensified following the death of a 22-year-old baccalaureate candidate, Mbeseha Esomba, who died after emergency treatment at Nkoldongo District Hospital was delayed. In another incident in the capital, dozens of mothers gathered in protest outside Gloire Olympique school after allegations surfaced that a 3-year-old child was sexually abused on the school premises. Demonstrators accused authorities of mishandling the case after the child's mother reportedly faced legal pressure following her public calls for justice. The incidents have triggered widespread reactions on social media and within local authorities and communities, with many Cameroonians and southern Cameroonians demanding accountability, reforms and stronger protection for citizens amid the social security and the challenges in the country. Well, this is where we will begin, but first let's get the prime headlines. Tonight, veteran musician Wirajing assaulted by armed men in Tatum. Also tonight, 4 abducted by armed men in Bamenda as they remain missing. Health services in the drain as Yaoundé outrage after student dies at Nkoldongo District Hospital. Tonight, tension in Yaoundé as mothers protest alleged sexual abuse of 3-year-old at the Gloire Olympique school. 16 students killed, dozens injured in fire accidents at a Kenyan boarding school. That is on the African scene. While on the global scene, U.S. Department of Energy opens advanced nuclear fuel talks with Oklo for other companies inclusive. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Alright, our first report for tonight, popular musician Wirajing Goodlove, who is 65 years, is presently receiving treatment in hospital after he was reportedly assaulted by armed men. Sources told the CNA that Wirajing had been invited to perform during the finals of a football tournament in Tatum when armed men intercepted him. The gunman allegedly whisked the veteran musician away to a camp in Takov where he was severely beaten. Local sources said members of an Amba camp from Takov later intervened and rescued the musician, preventing what some witnesses described as a potentially fatal attack. He was subsequently rushed to a nearby hospital for urgent medical attention. TNA initially reported that the singer's condition remained uncertain following the assault. However, fresh updates from sources in Tatum indicates that Wirajing is now in a much stable condition, though he continues to receive treatment for injuries sustained during the attack. The incident has sparked widespread concern among residents and supporters across Ambazonia, with many expressing shock over the brutal treatment of the elderly musician, who is widely not only known for his music but also for his strong Christian faith and active involvement in the Cameroon Baptist Convention, the CBC. Wirajing is a respected member of the CBC Men's Department and is regarded by many within the church community as a devoted Christian and cultural figure. The attack shows the persistent insecurity in some parts of the southern Cameroon, where clashes between what they have tagged as the separatist fighters and government forces have continued for years, often placing civilians at risk. As news of the assault spread, messages of support and prayers for Wirajing's recovery flooded social media and local community networks, with many calling for an end to violence against civilians and public figures in the war zone Amazonia. No group has officially claimed responsibility for the attack, and authorities have yet to issue a public statement on the incident. That is where we'll begin Undaunted tonight. Barrister Mbeseha, welcome. How are you doing today?
And thank you for having me.
Oh, well, yeah, you're welcome, sir. Welcome. Barrister, this particular report has so many twists and turns, but this is where we will begin tonight. First of all, this report in some area has it that a different group of what they tag as separatists, some say separatists, some say Amber Boys, depending on the reports that they are trying to pose, were the ones that attacked him at first. In the same report, they are also insinuating that it was still another set of Amber Boys that went to rescue him and took him to the hospital. I followed up a blogger who initially said it was Amber Boys that beat him up. After a day, this same blogger went back to say, oh, it wasn't really Amber Boys, it was armed men. Why? Because the second report that says it was Amber Boys that took him to the hospital has surfaced, because the question arose, who then took him to the hospital? And so we see there are, just like we were trying to differentiate the other day, there are so many armed men around, and because the people do not know the difference, they all want to tarnish the names of those who are doing the right jobs by tagging all of them as Amber Boys. We have, over time, tried to make that distinction. There are fighters, there are separatist fighters, or there are general unknown gunmen, but the Amazonian State Army would definitely not beat up somebody or beat up one of their own. But I really want you to join the conversation, and let's get to hear your own point of view with the reports that you have seen and what you think would have been the logical situation with this case.
Right, I think it's not a difficult case, John. Whether you call them boys, you could see evidence generalized security area. And I said sometimes ago, when insecurity takes the roots, safety is key. And so the important thing is to analyze where this man was going, what was he doing. If the story you told is correct, he was invited to come and make an animation of events, a soccer tournament. That's where the error lies. A soccer tournament in the zone of war, in a war zone, is unwelcome. Actually unwelcome. Tournament that is meant in situations of normalcy. Without normalcy, you cannot go and begin to make fanfare and call it a tournament. Because you're placing yourself at risk. As I said, it could be thieves, it could be anybody. Just compare this, Bouncer Festival we talked about. Bouncer Festival, we pulled 1,000 people with one goal, just to celebrate the culture and go away. No money made. But when you invite an individual and in a tournament, some financial incentive, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, they give him to come and do that thing. And somebody wanting to steal that 10,000 from him, put him, because he's just an individual. It's not a group of people. And so it means just that you as individuals, we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not reading the situation nicely. We're understanding what is going on. Otherwise, why would this man take the pains to leave his house? This is an old man. Just to go and animate a tournament. A tournament, a World Cup? What a tournament is that? A tournament presupposes that so many thousands of people will come there. And then you animate and they dance. This is not the time for dancing anywhere in Amazonia. This is not the time for wonderful celebrations. If you must celebrate, like the Insult culture they did, it must be done with care. And I remember we mentioned just during that program, to compare what happened in Insult to what happened in Kambe, these were all celebrations. One ended up very deadly, people were killed, and the other one ended up without any question asked. And so again, the government, who is supposed to ensure security, is saying nothing, they are mute, apparently because they don't even know, or because they don't want to meddle into the thing that doesn't concern them. And so when you go as a community of villagers to play soccer and invite their best talents, wherever they are, whether they're just dancers or whatever, to come and animate it, it takes security to a different level. You're trying to show, without knowing, that everything has to turn to normal. There is no normalcy in Amazonia. Where it is in Tatum, which is in Kambe, where it is in Banso, where it is in Boya, where it is in Kambe, where it is in Kuma or Manfi. There is generalized insecurity. Individuals must take care of themselves first. Make sure that they yourself are there. Again, generalized insecurity, we don't believe other individuals were Amber boys. But someone rescued him, who are also said to be Amber. And then nobody is investigating. Therefore, what do we do? What does an individual in this circumstance do? Whether you're in Tatum, whether you're in Boya, whether you're in Kambe, whether you're in Womb, take care of your own security first. Because if you have died, there are many people have died before. There's nobody who is going to be charged because investigating the thing. Nobody is going to be held accountable for whatever thing goes wrong with you. But again, my bottom line and my advice is let everybody in Amazonia know that every village, every quarter, every town is insecure. Don't take the risk because you don't know what might happen to you. Over to you.
All right. All right. I love that encouragement, or should we say advice at the end of your speech. Don't take the risk. All right, this seems to be a breaking news. It's just getting into our studio, Barrister, and it's happening in Buyi County, where the Nderem-Zekwa local government area, a desecration of the traditional authorities is happening in their very own eyes. The fun of Nzerem has become a scapegoat following the massacre carried out by La Republic to Cameroon colonial forces in Nzerem on the 25th of May 2026. Well, the fund received a convocation from the La Republic to Cameroon colonial administrators stationed at Legion in Bamenda for questioning regarding his role at the Nzerem Inyam cultural activities that culminated in the most brutal murder in their land. Well, it was today, the 29th, that the fund went there and was questioned. Today is 28th, the 28th of May, that the fund was questioned, only to be told that he will be locked up at the Legion in Bamenda until further notice. According to the reporter and the eyewitness, he says that this is an abomination to the culture and tradition of the Zekwa and a slap that needs an urgent response from all Amazonia. He says that they shall never be second-class citizens in their own land. All right, this is from Buyi County Security Team, and of course, is a breaking report. I'm very sure that as the day progresses, we'll definitely bring you up to speed with every information that will be coming from Buyi. But Barrister, you would want to throw in your thoughts on that particular breaking news?
Just as I said, the Zerum cultural event that became terrible, that turned deadly. If you ask the question that I said earlier, was it worth the pains? Was it worth the pains? I don't know it was, given what happened. But going on now, what is happening to the farm is a terrible thing that should not happen. Nobody can in any form accuse the farm for shooting down and killing people. The farm did not have guns. Even if he organized his cultural event, even without the so-called permission, there's no reason why he should be quit. The rifle authority should go get who shot people. The rifle authority. And they are charged with investigations. They are police charged with investigations. Not you. Did you not investigate? He has not investigated tool to find out, to investigate and catch. So that's an overreach of what is going, what they are doing. Did you, if you saw somebody with an AK-47, would he even look? He wouldn't. Did you go down the villain who carried the shot? What those guys? Have you done the forensic test? He has no capacity to do it. He doesn't. And so they are begging the issue. They are in Zerum with AK-47s. Automated and perpetrators brought to book. Who ought to do this? The government, under the directors of the Survey, chef de terre. Why did poor man? Man was just not even the phone, he was just sitting in his house. There's no evidence showing that anybody in the village of Zerum who have carried of people, the number of people, destroyed the number of vehicles. And rather investigate the rifle criminals, depending on the victims. The phone himself was just a victim. So what do you for doing what? For organizing a cultural festival, for killing people? Yeah. Either way, he committed no crime. If he organized a cultural event, that's not a criminal event. It is a shooting and killing. He never gone. Nobody even pointed out to him that he won. We feel sorry for these people. Again, but it gets back to something. Bazonia is a place of insecurity. And Bazonia is a place of lawlessness. Even from the so-called authorities that are supposed to protect them. This man should sue them if there was any crime. So he has committed no crime. Attending him. They're not, at the end of the day, you find out what they want. Is that the villager will say, contribute them to let him. So it's an extra stake. Because again, I don't know the guy, but nobody has ever imagined that he was not the accused. Again, or cultural festival. And so he never carried guns. He was the one who shot the people. So what are they locking him up? They are questioning him for what? To say, if you can imagine, oh, do you know in the area? If you're a hamburger, what that 10 years bring him? Even if that hamburger had left that place. With a woman for being to an about 4 years ago. This is a boyfriend to this, a girlfriend to this man. You can bring him. Of jungle justice is that. Over to you.
All right, Barrister. Let's see what happens at the end of today. I'm sure by now, any moment from now, we may begin to see reports. So hopefully over the weekend, we would have more reports from this and definitely bring it to the front burner. Moving on, let's head into Bamenda, where 4 people kidnapped by armed men in Bamenda on Sunday evening are said to have remained missing nearly 48 hours after the incident, well, according to local sources and residents in the area. The victims were reportedly abducted at gunpoint around 6 p.m. from a snack bar located at Center Boat in Mile 4, a neighborhood in Bamenda. Witnesses said the attackers stormed the establishment and forcefully took the victims away to an unknown destination. Two of those abducted were sales girls working at the snack bar at the time of the attack, while the identities of the other victims have not yet been officially confirmed. Family members say they have not received any communication or ransom demands from the kidnappers since the abduction, heightening fears over the safety of the victims. Residents told local sources that the snack bar has repeatedly been targeted by unidentified armed men. Sunday attacks reportedly marks the fourth incident involving the establishment since it opened 2 years ago, raising concerns about growing insecurity in the area. Kidnappings for ransom, attacks on businesses, and violent incidents involving armed groups have remained frequent in parts of the southern Cameroon amid the ongoing Amazonian war, which has continued to disrupt daily lives and economic activities across the nation. Security forces have not yet released any official statements regarding the abduction and the whereabouts of the four victims. They have said to be remained unknown. Alright, Barrister, very sad one, more like the sad tales we will usually hear. Back to bars. The good thing about this is the people themselves are saying these people were unknown gunmen. The reports all across the media, the papers are saying, oh, unknown gunmen. So this establishes the fact of what we are saying. There are so many armed men operating in the guise of, trying to dent the image of the ASA. And so when they do, they'll try to, blame the ASA for it. And these are sales girls, What did the sales girls do? They were just at work, trying to earn a living, their business, minding their business, focusing on their business, but they were still attacked. And so we have people who are taking advantage of the war to cause havoc, to cause mayhem, and to create instability for the people who are already unstable. And so, just like you would always say, when two elephants fight, the grass will suffer. So it seems like even those who are suffering are inflicting more pain and suffer on people who they should even protect or give a helping hand. But let's get your point of view.
Well, again, this is different from the Tatum. Somewhere in Bamenda. Town of Bamenda town is on sale. We have said million over. Bamenda that would like it. The world is this a place for you to go sitting in the snack bar and drinking in the evening? All this beer celebration without anything to it. Why is all this going to pretend that everything is normal? Let me take a snack. Let me do this. Why we are celebrating? People storm in for the 7. They were not there. If they were there, they were overpowered. Therefore, you don't count on somebody defending you, pretending to protect you. You're on your own. You're on your own. And so I would advise and insist that those especially in places be very careful. But in addition to that, however, there is number to save. It is more in Bamenda, it is more, it is simple example. If you want to adopt money, people adopt more money can come in. Otherwise, there's no place, because for example, this is my full Bamenda. Mr. Bush, Tatum, there. If it happen that place you call somewhere there, then what should not happen in Bamenda? And so we have generalized insecurity. Nobody is able to say the Amba boys. But even they say the Amba boys, they have told the story themselves. How making money out of this war? There are people making their own names. They don't take money from you. If you help you, that is, if you are doing a free paper, you have to pay. Others are not free. You pay for them. But if you can have that paying any money, that's money. So to be very, very prudent. But going back, Amanda, so hot 5-7 years. It is not a place for you to go drinking in the snack bars. That's not a place for you to go drinking in the snack bars. And where the authorities, when the people came with the AK, for in the my folks in Bamenda town, Why have they identified? No answers given. So what do you do? I would advise everybody to be very careful with your life. This is a very situation. This is very important. Because they are not ransom. At least we're not just for ransom. If they're not asking for ransom, what do these people want? We don't know. Nobody knows. Are they just criminal, or they are just people trying to sow insecurity? Any of those things can work. But individual, you can that thing, but personally careful for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it is death, you die alone. It is injuries, you suffer the injuries as I am. So what do? You protect our situations. But those girls could not survive unless they were selling in a snack bar. Snack bar, what do you want to drink? They want to drink export. All these brasseries. What the trouble?
Right, thank you so much, Barrister. And for some very sad reports, reasons that we do not know, we have very sad reports here tonight. This is heading over to neighboring Cameroon, where public anger is growing in Yaoundé following the death of a 22-year-old baccalaureate candidate Mbeseha Asumba, who reportedly died after emergency treatment at Nkoldongo District Hospital after her treatment was delayed over an alleged 8,000 CFA upfront payment demand. Well, according to reports, Asumba collapsed while writing her BAc examination and was rushed to the hospital by relatives and classmates. Hospital staff allegedly requested an 8,000 CFA deposit before treatment could begin. The student reportedly had only 2,000 CFA at the time and returned home to search for the remaining amount. Witnesses say she attempted to leave her mobile phone as a collateral, but cash payment was insisted upon. She later returned with the full amount but collapsed before receiving treatment. Efforts to revive her were unsuccessful, and both Asumba and her unborn child died. The incident has reignited criticisms of emergency healthcare practices in the Cameroons, particularly allegations that some public hospitals demand payment before attending to critical patients. Civil society groups and health advocates are calling for an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death and for sanctions against any staff found responsible. The tragedy has also renewed debate over the state of the country's public health system, including poor working conditions, unpaid salaries, staff shortages, and overcrowded facilities. Advocacy groups say the systemic problems continues to undermine emergency medical care across the country. Authorities at the Nkoldongo District Hospital and the Ministry of Public Health had not issued official statements at the time of filing in this report. Meanwhile, social media users in Yaoundé and beyond continues to demand justice for the deceased. Students are also doing so using the hashtag Justice for Mbeseha. Barrister Mbeseha, I for one do not believe justice after death. Sometimes I feel it's wasted efforts, wasted energy, and even wasted emotions. We do not know all of the tensions and pressures that would have been put into the situation before, before her death. But I feel that if so much energy was put in, maybe the son would have been raised or the hospital would have treated her. But whichever is the case, I do not know how it's done. But that's why I'm going to allow you, to give us your own point of view and tell us where you stand on this issue. Because why I say so is, at the end of the day, a life has been lost. What kind of justice are people looking for when one life has just gone? Well, let's get your point of view.
What happened there? You go to the core of what all this Amazonian fight is about. What we're running away from. The story that we know. This woman was pregnant. She was near delivery. And she's rushed to a facility by way of emergency. What what is an emergency? Emergency is a situation that requires urgent and immediate attention. We are rushed to emergency anywhere in the world, except no demanding payment, treatment befitting us. The role of emergency health. Once an emergency, just other questions can follow. But they didn't do. They told her to pay 8,000. What is 8,000? That's about 15. And she could not afford. She was about to give her phone for that. Take it. That is the tutorial we know. But one thing that we know is that this is happening in Yaoundé. Yaoundé is the capital city of Cameroon, where if there's anything good, it is supposed to be there. It is to be the best of whatever thing they have over there. This is happening to a pregnant woman who lost life eventually together with a child. What else do we need to say that you should run away from this system? Whatever thing they will do, which they are never going to do anything away again. I've never known anyone in that Cameroon for medical negligence and gets compensated. If you get compensated, the woman is dead and the child. There is not going to be any explanation. There's not going to be any explanation. Absolute explanation. This is not a regime. This is not a system under which human beings will live. This is not a system where Ambazonians will be part of it. The best thing to describe is that they were accomplices to the death of this woman. That's her unit. Was accomplices to her death. And by extension, the whole health system. Because there were penalties to follow from the Department of Health, called it ministry. There will be, these sort of things will not repeat themselves. And so this poor woman is dead at that early age for no fault of hers. Her being pregnant is not a crime. Pregnancy is not a crime. Taking care of a pregnant woman to delivery is a duty of the public. Because the public authority, wherever they are found, in China, in America, is the responsibility of the public to take care of pregnant women and their unborn children until they are born. And so once they fail with that, it is not that hospital unit that failed. It is the whole system that failed. Because nobody is giving an explanation. Nobody is even trying to find out. Nobody is even talking about compensation, which should never come anyway. And so it's unfortunate. That's why we run away from this tough kangaroo system. We should never belong to it. We shall never be part of it going forward. Over to you.
All right, very sad one there. But that's not the only one. A lot is happening in the neighboring Cameroon. Another one involving a little child, where a major protest erupted in Yaoundé early this morning as dozens of mothers gathered in front of a school called Gloire Olympique school, following allegations that a 3-year-old child was sexually abused in the school premises. The demonstration was triggered by growing outrage over the handling of the case, which has sparked intense reaction on socials and within the local community. Well, according to the child's mother, her daughter was abused, prompting her to speak and seek medical attention and report the matter to the authorities. The mother reportedly submitted a medical certificate to the gendarmerie as part of her complaint. However, tensions escalated after the school allegedly filed a complaint against her for cybercrime, accusing her of spreading information online about the incident. Sources close to the case say the mother was later informed that her own situation had become serious, a development that further angered parents and women groups who believe the focus has shifted away from the child's welfare and the allegations of abuse. In response, mothers and community members mobilized outside the school in solidarity with the family, demanding transparency, justice, and a full investigation into the allegation. Protesters accuse authorities of failing to adequately address the matter and called for stronger protection of children in schools. The atmosphere around the school remained tense as demonstrators chanted and called for accountability. Security forces were deployed to monitor the situation, while the sub-prefect arrived at the scene in an attempt to calm the crowd and prevent further escalation. While as of first time, neither school authorities nor government officials had issued a detailed report or public statement addressing the allegation or the ongoing protest. While this case continues to attract public attention, with many citizens demanding an impartial investigation and a swift action if the allegations are confirmed. Oh well, Barry, so we're talking about a 3-year-old. And because the mother had some kind of medical attestation to this, I'm sure she would have shown it to so many women, because the level of protest that has erupted from morning, and as of 3 p.m. Amber time, we were told that the protest was still on. Mothers, youths all came out because they saw that there is truth in what the mother is saying. I mean, so many mothers would have a 3-year-old that can link to some of the emotions that they are all sharing. But you see, the prefect, according to what the report said, was on the ground. In fact, some other report confirmed that he felt so sober and he cried at that very scene. Well, we are all very concerned because, when incidents like this affects one mother, there is a possibility it might affect other mothers. We're talking about a 3-year-old. 3-year-old. What could be so special about a 3-year-old that would make a teacher take advantage of her? And do you think that the protests by these mothers who are standing in solidarity with this other pained mother would yield any result, as someone who knows the system in neighboring Cameroons?
I think that story, from the pictures you see, can take us days, if not years, to analyze. So many things went wrong. First, there's this allegation of a 3-year-old, 4-year-old child being raped. That's a crime. That allegation is supported by the fact that the mother filed a complaint to the gendarmes. The gendarmes are the ones who are supposed to investigate cases like that. There was no investigation. But what you know is that the school files a complaint against the poor mother. It may be forwarded on social media about the school, and action starts immediately. They start to take her into custody. Two things you must remember: in a place like Yaoundé or anywhere else, to own a private school of that nature, it's not a thing for everybody. It's for the people who are powerful financially and politically. So they are people that have a lot of influence in community. And so they have the power of the money, they have the power of their social standing. And the poor mother or any other child attending that school has no protection for himself or for herself. But most importantly, you see the crowd there. What is interesting to me? You see the crowd surging there in front. You find a group of gendarmes, and the most prominent person you find there is a divisional officer in his khaki shirt. What are the gendarmes doing? The gendarmes are holding the crowd not to come and catch their deal. Because they are not looking for the criminal, they are trying to save the life of the duo from the crowd. And so he asked, where were all these gendarmes when the matter was reported to them officially? If he asked them, how far did the investigation go? They have no answer to give. The last I heard about it before we came on this broadcast is that the teacher has vamoosed. The teacher disappeared. Well, if nothing happened in that school, why did the teacher disappear? Could somebody just disappear from Yaoundé in the big city and go without ever being noticed? And so again, the poor women are there, helpless, asking. The poor duo is standing there. The duo, as I said in the earlier segment, that duo has no power of investigation. He has nothing that he can do, other than join the mothers and the fathers and crying, weeping like any other person, because he is a human being. Investigation, the tools for investigation, the process lies with the security forces. Those tools and the process do not involve a crowd like that. They involve technical know-how. When they filed this complaint with the medical certificate. What did the technical services of the jury do? At the top of the investigation is the procureur. The procureur is a lawyer. Is there any complaint in his office or her office? What steps has he taken, he or she taken, to investigate as to what was said, to trace the person who was accused? Up to this point, we don't know. But again, had they taken the steps that were required as an emergency thing, that little girl might have died. But if they had taken the steps, the complaint seriously, we would not have reached this level of the crowd coming out. Angry mothers, like any other mother, like any other parent, they will be angry. Because the school is supposed to be the safest environment where the children go to. But in a bigger context, again, this is happening somewhere in Yaoundé. And if children in Yaoundé going to school, their own children, they are not Ambazonians, cannot find security, whatever by gendarmes, with their gendarmes and their police, with their own state council and prosecutors, if they cannot investigate their own crimes happening before the nose of the own president, Mr. Paul Biya, before the prime minister and all government officials, how do you expect them to find time to investigate something happening in Mile 4 or something happening in Tatum, somewhere that we just discussed a few minutes ago? This is evidence of total absence of government. There's no government without security. Security is not there, even for the youngest child of 3 years old. Consequences are not there, even for people who rape and kill little children of 3, 4 years old. And so what society is that you want a normal human being to belong to? Can we be expected to belong to this sort of thing? It looks to me, this personal, that the state, that country is irreformable. You cannot reform it. There's nothing there that is accountable to anything. They steal money without remorse. They kill people without remorse. They arrest and detain people without any reasons. And so this is the state that has completely fallen into the hands of dictators, into the hands of predators. And so again, if it is happening in Yaoundé, that's happening in Yaoundé, like the other event, how do you expect to have justice in Kambe, in the Kesham place, in Tatum, in Malfo Bamenda, or in our village in Amazonia? We will not have one from them. The only thing we can do is to try to get out of it, rebuild our lives, make security what it is worth, make our hospitals what they are supposed to be, make our courts what they are supposed to be, and move on. We've had enough, we've buried enough, we've suffered more than we could have suffered. And the other question we should ask in conclusion is, what crime do we commit to go through this sort of natural sufferings? Why? Why, we must ask. Why should our children be shot without questions? Why should our mothers be raped without questions? Why should our villages be raped and burnt without questions? The answer, why, cannot come. The only solution, the best answer is, get out of it. It's a bad marriage. You'll be alive. Move on. Maybe if you have more children, you deliver. If you don't have, you continue to mourn for the last ones. Over to you.
Barrister, thank you very much, and I loved how diplomatic and how sincere you were with your lines there. Questions begging for answer. The teacher, where is he at the moment? Was he investigated? If he was, the school should have been able to put it up before filing that complaint. We're talking about a child. We're talking about a mother who needs answers to some of our questions. Oh well, thank you there. Well, for today, this has been one of the most trending topics. So let's see how far this goes over tomorrow, over into the weekend, and then we'll see how this was resolved. But like I asked, with the number of mothers that you see, with the videos that we have been showing, do you think that they're going to get a result? Do you think that this process will yield them a result? Or is there any result that you think, or any process that you think that they can embark on to get a more positive result?
Well, we also, but I wonder if they would. And then turning again to Amazonia, I was like, where are the results of the people who burnt that little child in Muyuka? The child died. They have killed our own and gone without questions asked. They shot the child. This is really we think that if the teacher were found, he would try to defend himself. Where are the people who shot and killed our own children live? What penalty did they go through? The very procurators are found in Moyoka, found in Kumba, found in Kambe and Wum, and so on and so forth. The impunity has taken a level that is no longer human. Maybe they'll find answers, but chances are that they'll find no answer at all. Because the society has become lawless in everything that they do. Killing children, raping women, stealing from the treasury, doing everything that is not imaginable in a civilized society is in their DNA. You do not purify the DNA, you don't change your DNA. You live with the DNA until you die. These people are abject criminals, protected by their criminal bosses and the system they set up to benefit themselves. Over to you.
All right, Barrister. Let's see what would come out. Let's see if some of your suggestions would happen. But would watch. All we can do is to watch and see. Thank you so much, Barrister. It's at this juncture we'll let you go because we know that over the weekend we would have you for a serious time on this week on Ambezonia. All right. Thank you so much, Barrister.
Pardon me.
And when we return right after the break, we will head into Africa, Kenya precisely, where a boarding school has been flooded. Students have died and 79 others were injured after a devastating overnight fire swept through a dormitory at the Uchumshi Girls' School in central Kenya. Authorities have confirmed this today. The blaze broke out in the early hours of the morning in a dormitory housing more than 200 students in the town of Kilgil, while emergency respondents rushed to the scene as flames engulfed the building. Police said the cause of the fire has not yet been determined and investigators are examining whether safety regulations at the school were properly followed. The government-owned secondary school is managed and sponsored by the Kenyan Police Service, and many of the students are daughters of police officers. School fires have remained a reoccurring tragedy in Kenya, often linked to electricity faults, overcrowding, or deliberate arson. Safety failures, including blocked exits and locked windows, have frequently contributed to high death tolls. The incident revives painful memories of previous school fire disasters in the country. Kenya's deadly school fire occurred in 2021 in Machakos County, where 67 students were killed in a dormitory blaze. More recently, 21 students died in a school fire in central Kenya in 2024. Prompting President William Ruto to declare 3 days of national mourning. In 2017, another school caught fire in Nairobi and it claimed the lives of 10 students, with a student later charged with murder in connection with the incident. Very sad situation, and our heart goes out to Kenya. When we return right after the break, we would head into the globe, where U.S. Department of Energy has opened advanced nuclear fuel talks with UCLO and 4 other companies. The U.S. Department of Energy DOE on Tuesday announced that it has selected UCLO Inc. Incorporated and 4 other advanced nuclear companies to begin advanced negotiations for possible participation in its surplus plutonium utilization program. signaling a major step in the federal government's push to strengthen domestic nuclear fuel production and accelerate next-generation reactor development. According to a spokesperson for the Department of Energy's Office of Nuclear Energy, the negotiations are still ongoing and no final agreements have been reached. However, the move could provide participating companies with access to surplus plutonium materials that may be repurposed into advanced nuclear fuel. The initiative is part of a broader strategy by the federal government to bolster America's nuclear energy sector as demand rises for reliable, carbon-free electricity capable of supporting artificial intelligence infrastructure, industrial expansion, and grid modernization. The Department of Energy officials said the program is intended to support innovation in advanced fuel recycling technologies while helping nuclear developers attract additional private investment. DOE's program could help companies unlock the next level of private funding to broaden domestic nuclear fuel supplies, spur innovation in American recycling technologies, and unlock private sector funding to fuel the nation's nuclear renaissance. Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Energy Mike Goff said in a statement, while Oklo, an advanced nuclear technology company focused on compact fast reactors, has become one of the most closely watched firms in the emergency nuclear sector. The company is developing small-scale reactors designed to operate for years without refueling, using recycled nuclear materials as fuel. Industry experts say access to surplus plutonium and recycled fuel streams could help reduce U.S. dependence on foreign uranium enrichment, while strengthening long-term emergency energy security and lowering fuel supply barriers for advanced reactor developers. The DOE did not disclose the names of the other 4 companies selected for negotiations or indicate when the discussions are expected to conclude. The announcement comes amid growing bipartisan support for nuclear energy in Washington, with policymakers increasingly viewing advanced reactors as a critical component of the energy's clean energy transition and a strategic tool for competing with Russia and China in the global nuclear technology race. That's it for tonight on Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the reports that made it to tonight's headlines. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that veteran musician Wirajing assaulted by armed men in Tatum. Also tonight, 4 abducted by armed men in Bamenda remains missing. We told you that health services is in the drain in Yaoundé as there has been an outreach after student dies at the Nkoldongo district hospital, while tension is still in Yaoundé as mothers protest alleged sexual abuse of 3-year-old at the Gloire Olympique school. On the African scene, we went to Kenya, where 16 students has been killed and dozens injured in a fire accident in a boarding school. While on the global scene, U.S. Department of Energy opens advanced nuclear fuel talks with Oklo and 4 other companies. That's it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing it to the news on Untold Stories. On behalf of Barrister Mbeseha, an in-house analyst, and a team of technicians behind tonight's production, it's good night and God bless.